Welcome to the Success Playbook by Expertrons and Shine. Every parent wants the best first school for their kids, but not every preschool is built with the right philosophy, trained teachers, structured learning systems, and child centered pedagogy. So, the real question is not just how to open a preschool, the question is how do you build a preschool that parents trust, child love, and franchise partners can run with confidence? Because in early education, the business is preschool, but the real differentiator is the pedagogy. Welcome to the Success Playbook, and I have Kopal with me, the founder of Little Einstein. She has spent over 2 decades building one of the most important and most misunderstood spaces in early children education. Kopal, thanks for being part of the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Jatin. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm also equally delighted to share the Little Einstein's journey with you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Today, your brand has over 100 centers, presence across 7 countries, and impacted over a lakh students globally. It's really wonderful to see the progress it has made over the last 2 decades, and would love to know from the start, like how did you get into this space, and how did you kind of start thinking about starting into this space, and how did it get so big?
Well, yeah, so Little Einsteins didn't just happen overnight. The way the journey started was actually I was already working at corporate level with different brands. And when my child had to attend a preschool, that's when I realized the gap that the country currently had. I mean, the country had that time. And it was more realizing that gap of quality preschools that helped me get into the stream. And what I did was do my research, and I did a couple of courses to understand how to go about educating preschoolers in the best holistic way. And that is what led to the formation of Little Einsteins. Uh, so we started with just one center in Hyderabad in High Tech City and with just 30 kids. And we realized the impact of quality education, where parents were actually acting as our marketing agents because it was all organic word of mouth publicity that, they were getting more referrals and more parents into the school. The year after that, we started getting the local preschools approach us for franchisees. And that's how this became like a big preschool chain.
Amazing, amazing. You try to solve it yourself. This is really impressive. Let me ask you something bluntly. Like, why do you think like some preschools become trusted brands, but while thousands of them just remain neighborhood centers with colorful walls and toys?
Yeah, so I always joke about the fact that if Colorful Walls could build brand, a preschool brand, then every paint company would be running the best preschool in the country. But parents are actually much smarter than that. So a parent may notice the bright, colorful rooms, toys, or cute activity corners. But what they are really asking is, will my child be safe? Will the teacher understand my child? Or will my child come happy today?
Right.
And I have seen this many times that parent looks for attractive things in school, but they actually stay because the child speaks more confidently or is happy in the school. And when the child comes back and says that I want to go to school tomorrow, that is when a preschool becomes more than just a center, and that is when it becomes a trusted brand. So you have these neighborhood centers who often depend on the location, but also only on one good teacher. But a trusted brand depends on systems. They have trained teachers, strong curriculum, a standard approach to parent communication, and consistency across classrooms and centers. So at Little Einsteins, we've always believed that early education is not just like babysitting with worksheets, but these are more like foundation years. So every action that we do, which is like every rhyme, every story, game, activity, all of that should have a purpose, and that is basically to build confidence, communication, curiosity, emotional security, and thinking ability in the child.
Very, very well put, Kopal. I think it's very important to kind of have all of this put together. Talking about that, what is the one mistake most parents make while choosing a preschool?
I think the most common mistake I've seen parents make while choosing a preschool is that they start looking at it through adult eyes. When I say adult eyes, I mean where they would notice the reception area, they would notice like the walls, the infrastructure, but they would
Yeah.
also notice the fees or the photograph or the annual day videos. And then they become more like the auditors. But actually, if you see what a 3-year-old or a toddler would actually be looking at, is their checklist is very different. It's shorter. It's like more like, did the teacher smile at me? Or can I touch this toy? Is the bathroom scary? So the requirements are very different. And this is where, the most important questions are that the parents should be asking in terms of curriculum, safety, the teacher ratio, what activities is the preschool offering? Because, once the child is in the classroom or in the school and he's found that one toy he loves or that one teacher who sat down at eye level and spoke to him gently, that's the moment the child has already made up the mind that I want to be in this school. And so I feel a school is more about the moment, it's more about interaction with the students, which is beyond any brochure that could actually tell them. So, what parents should actually be doing is when they visit a preschool, they should look at not just the environment, but how the teachers are interacting with the student.
No, amazing. I think very very well put, Kopal. You have seen like how early education is approached globally as well. So what's the biggest differentiator between how international preschools operate versus what we see in India?
I think one of the biggest differentiators would be how the childcare policies are in countries abroad, like different international countries. They are extremely strict about the childcare policies, but the learning experience itself is very flexible. So, for example, in the UK, where the policies are more around child safety and safeguarding, documentation, compliance, all that, there is a lot of accountability for the child care, basically, if the children are cared for or not. But when it comes to the learning approach, that is, they don't have something what we have in India. Let us teach every child everything by this date, where they're not actually focused on rote learning and they are not focused on a specific timeline for the curriculum, but it's more child led. So I can just like kind of give you an example of how the pressure is not on the teacher to complete the course. I remember in UK in one of our preschools, one of the kids just dug up a strange colorful stone from the garden. So he went to the teacher and the teacher was not like how in India a teacher would ideally be like, nice stone, now come back to the worksheet. But the teacher was like, okay, so you're curious about it. Let's ask different kids in the class. Are they equally curious about it? And they were all. And that day, that lesson actually developed into a wonderful lesson on archaeology, where they spoke about digging, discovering fossils. So it became more of an adventure for the student. And that is what we see as a major difference. But I must say that, yes, there has been a positive change in India because of the national education policy, which was introduced in 2020. Ecosystem has become a little bit organized, but it's also more child centric now. So I see as per the NEP 2020, there's like a great emphasis on activity based learning, on exploration and creativity. So it's a good change that is coming into India. And I think that we all will be able, we've already adopted because of our global reach. But I think it's also that more preschools are going to adopt to that.
Makes sense. No, I think very, very well put. And of course, things are changing really rapidly. Of course, I've worked in the education space quite a bit. We created like games for kids in the K-12 domain and have served like 2 million students. And I understand how the policies are changing rapidly,
Hmm.
how things which were not part of the curriculum have now are now given more and more importance. So it's really good to see how it is also changing in early education. But clearly, of course, scaling a trusted preschool brand is far more complex than that. So what did Little Einstein decide to do kind of differently from day one?
Yeah, so we actually understood the fact that preschool is not simple right from day one. So we realized that it's not just about building classrooms, but we kind of created an entire ecosystem around the child. So we built an entire operating system for early childhood education. For example, we built the curriculum system. It's not just collection of activities that we want to go ahead and teach the student, but it's more on a thoughtful process of amalgamating multiple intelligence with the 21st century skills. We focus a lot on the 21st century skills, which are the 4 C's, which is creativity, communication, critical thinking, and collaboration. But our approach to that is also very child centric. So it's more customizing the lesson plan for the child, customizing how the child is learning, because that is what multiple intelligence tells us, that every child has, they don't learn through the same gate. They each have different entry gates. And so a lot of our lesson plan is based on that amalgamation to make it more holistic. The second thing we did was we actually went ahead and built an entire teacher training, because it's the teacher who's actually delivering these lessons. And they are kind of the first bridge between to ensure that teacher speaks the same language that we want them to speak, which is of comfort. We were growing because we are growing as franchisee. Operational processes have to be in place, like, the admissions, the safety, the hygiene, planning, and all that need to be standard and need to be equally engaging for the child, for the parent, and also for the franchisees. So we kind of used all that and integrated technology wherever we could to make our systems stronger for communication, training, reporting.
Amazing, amazing. No, very, very well put. And I think you are trying to serve each and every pillar which are part of this early childhood education. Of course, child being at the center of it, but all the other parts being equally important. So, of course, in early education curriculum alone is not enough. At ground level, of course, teachers are the real face of your brand. So how do you kind of try to maintain consistency there?
Yeah, so the way we do with teachers is more paying a lot of attention to teacher training, because we feel that is basically the brand in action. So, like, a teacher is basically a brand in action. And so, you know, uh, they are the ones who actually build the classroom. They are trained on the curriculum delivery, they are trained on the classroom management, child psychology, observations, communication, reporting, even interacting with parents, like how should a teacher interact with parent, how should she represent the brand? Because, I feel a teacher deserves a lot more credit than what they get. It's not easy being a teacher. One morning a teacher is a negotiator between two kids who are fighting over the same wagon or a toy. So they have to learn a lot of skills, and that's why our teacher trainings are ongoing. So they are not just a one time training, but they are consistent trainings with a lot of focus on why we are doing every activity, what is the reason behind each activity. We do a separate multiple intelligence training for them. We are Microsoft accredited, so we also do a lot of tools training, technical training for the teachers, to ensure that our teachers have that entire tools and technology with them to go ahead and make the day easy for them and make it purposeful. But we also realize that it's for our franchisees, it's not like that they can keep getting teachers in. The refresher trainings are available just whenever a franchisee might need it.
Amazing. No, I think that makes complete sense, and that's kind of a very important pillar to what you're building, and really good to see the emphasis you're putting on kind of the teachers training part. How do you kind of build that long-term trust or like an engagement with parent? So how do you kind of establish that?
Yeah, so parent communication is actually extremely important in preschool, because, like I said, the child may just, be in school for a few hours, but actually it's the parent who's thinking about the child the whole day. So, especially in the early years, parents, they just don't want to just ask, like, did my child attend school? Or they want to know so many different things. They want to know, did my child eat, did they settle, did they speak, did they cry? So all that is basically covered with parent communication. And if you are quiet as a preschool brand and not communicating with the parent, that creates a lot of anxiety in the parent. But communication creates a lot of confidence. And that is why we have a parent engagement system, which is not just occasional updates. We have it threefold. So, which is basically a one-on-one communication between the parents and the teachers. So the parents can receive instant updates about the children, ask questions. And the second one is basically the center owner to parent communication that we have, where events, reminders, celebrations, or operational information is shared by the parents. And the third one is basically the brand to parent communication. So this helps us a lot in sharing our learning philosophy or important announcements about the brand, any curriculum updates. So those are the initiatives we've taken, which is basically the three-layered communication with the parents, because we feel that, parents build trust over a period of time, and that trust is very important for preschool.
I this is very interesting to understand, and of course that itself, like just the communication itself, will ensure that the parents kind of trust you again the next year, or even trust you again for their second child, or more than that. So that's
Yeah, yeah,
very.
absolutely. Actually, strong communication with parents helps us improve retention as well as builds loyalty. That's true.
Yeah, yeah. So amazing. No, this is really, and also like I'm sure the word of mouth also spreads really fast. So so any of their friends wanting to admit their children, they give out the review very quickly. So if the experience they had was not as they were expecting, it also goes very fast. And if the communication is really well, it also kind of grows equally fast. So I mean, yeah, I mean, this layer is kind of a very strong pillar to how you're also able to attract a lot of students and how you're able to kind of scale. Amazing to know that, Kopal. So when a new franchisee partner joins Little Einstein, what kind of support system do they get to kind of scale rapidly?
Yeah, so basically, opening a preschool is super exciting, but the first few months are quite overwhelming. And that's why when a new partner joins and we provide
Yeah,
the critical support that they need.
yeah,
So we kind of cover a lot of support things like making sure right from the setup till the time they are comfortable conducting classes, all that is covered in. But one thing which we very consciously do is we do not burn holes in our franchisee partners' pockets before they even
mm,
start operations. So we do not
yeah,
force them to buy specific items from specific vendors or invest in, every possible way on day one itself. We give them a practical list, give them minimum items that they need for operations, and then we give them a list of good to have items. So
yeah,
our role is basically to help them build a strong center and not
yeah,
necessarily, set up with expensive stuff. But apart from that, we also provide like counseling, we provide support during admissions, we provide teacher training. So there are a whole lot of different support systems that we have. And we also have a model which is called MIMS, which is minimum interference and maximum support for our franchisee. We don't want the franchisee partner to feel controlled. They are entrepreneurs at the end of the day, so they understand their city, their parents, and their local market. Our job is more to, give them the brand, the systems which are set in place, the curriculum, the training, the technology, without interference. And so it's more like saying we give them the map, the compass, and the support team. This is very important for us. And that is why we have systems in place for teacher training, for curriculum, for admissions, for marketing, even for conversions. Basically, everything is in place, but we kind of start building that support from day one. And they should probably feel like, yes, they have somebody who is there for them. So they shouldn't feel like, oh, I'm doing this all alone. So
yeah.
it's more like they take the ownership, they develop the confidence, and we are kind of nurturing them for it.
Amazing. Amazing. What makes this interesting from a business standpoint? Like, this is not dependent on just preschool admission. There are like multiple recurring revenue layers built into the model. So can you kind of elaborate a bit on those as well?
Yeah, so we have like a lot of recurring revenue models in our preschool foundation
Yeah.
because we came to a very practical realization that in preschool, the building is not used for the whole day. The
Yeah.
preschool is just operational for a few hours, which is in the
Yeah.
morning. but the rent, electricity, staff, maintenance, and operational
For the whole
costs,
day.
so these are for the
Yeah.
whole day. So
Yeah.
landlords don't actually say, okay, let's do half day rent only. So
Yeah.
we started
True.
thinking if we already have like this entire space, which is already designed for children and trusted by parents and operationally ready, why not use it for the whole day? And that is where, multiple revenue layers came into being. So around the same preschool foundation, we have built the daycare system, after school program, the summer camps, online learning and enrichment programs, so that the center is not just dependent on preschool admission, but it becomes like a full stack child development center. Now, this actually helps the franchisee in two ways. Firstly, it definitely improves profitability because you can use the same infrastructure for different time slots, for different age groups. And a child may like begin with preschool, then move into daycare, join the summer camp as well, and the after school activities. So you're not just dependent on the admission period, because you are getting that throughout. So it creates like a life cycle relationship with the family. So it's not see Little Einsteins only for 2 or 3 year old. They see it for their own kid or maybe a kid who's about to come. So it's a long term learning for the.
Amazing. And for someone entering the space, what role are they actually playing on the ground? So like a partner who is kind of opening up a Little Einstein school, what are the roles they are playing on ground?
Yeah, so our franchisee partners actually wear many hats. They are entrepreneurs, community builders, parent listener, team leader, and sometimes even the person who helps solve the mystery of a missing balloon. But yeah, so the role is more like deeply people driven. They are basically community builders because preschool is a very local business. Parents talk to each other, they have these apartment groups, WhatsApp groups. So the franchisee's role is to basically become a trusted presence, to have a trusted presence in that community. Parents are not just looking for admission, they're looking for reassurances. That would come with our franchisee partners. It's more like a relationship driven role. So they lead the team, build the parent relationships. They also have like a team of teachers to lead. So it's more of a leadership role as well. They also have to understand the local market and create a very warm environment where families are connected to the center. So it's more like building trust, learning from the community, and letting the community get comfortable with the center.
No, I think very well put, Kopal. I think this is of course a very important aspect of kind of making sure that you have that early trust. And if you were kind of building Little Einstein again in 2025 from scratch, what would you do differently?
Okay, so I don't think I would, change the soul of the brand because that foundation would still be the child. Um,
Okay.
so like I said, like when we started, we grew a lot by word of mouth publicity
Yeah.
over the years. So it's basically the experience that we've built in over the years in terms of our pedagogy that's been built through experience, research, and a lot of classroom observations, teacher
Right.
feedback, parent interactions, and continuous development. So our systems have been basically carefully built through the
Yeah.
years, understanding what children need, what teachers need, what parents expect, and what our franchisee partners require. So if I were to start again, I would probably have that experience, but I
Yeah.
would design it more consciously. I would say now I would be more conscious with the use of technology for the insights and quality, more like using it for customization of each learner with AI. I would also probably work a lot on educating the parents because I feel parent education is actually a bigger part of the model. Parents are aware these days about a lot of things, but they are also anxious and they need a lot of hand holding. So yeah, I would probably build stronger parent guidance into the system. And we would never develop Little Einstein's preschool as just a preschool. I would probably build it like a complete child development ecosystem. But one thing I would definitely do, which I've learned through my experience, which we haven't done enough, is basically tell our story louder from the beginning. So earlier, like it was more of organic growth, more word of mouth publicity. But I would like to kind of just go ahead and tell this louder, start sharing more with the world of what we are doing.
Amazing, amazing. That makes complete sense. Also, from a vision standpoint, you I have already served over a lakh students. How do you see this shaping up in the next 3 to 5 years?
So we definitely want to go grow the number of students. Having served a lakh students, we want to grow it to grow to different parts of the world. We are already present in 7 countries. We want to grow further in different parts of the world, grow more in India, and serve like more than a billion students.
Wow,
Basically, that's a target. We want to give this quality education, this approach to as many kids as possible, and look at also the countries where we feel the need for quality education is required.
amazing, amazing. This makes complete sense, and I'm sure with the approach you have and with the quality education which you're building, I'm sure this would reach to over a million students very soon. And also with the kind of support you're providing your partners, I'm sure that would be approached that target could be approached in half the time. So really good to know about the vision of the company. Now, of course, enough of serious talks. Would love to kind of ask you some rapid fire questions and would expect some quick answers. So, one skill every child must develop early.
Curiosity. I feel like if the child is curious, then they are not forced to learning. It will happen naturally.
Wow, wow. Biggest mistake parents make while choosing a preschool.
Going for the infrastructure or brand name rather than the pedagogy.
Okay. One thing that separates a great preschool from an average one.
Definitely, hands down, pedagogy. An average preschool can keep the students busy, but a great preschools actually help them grow with purpose.
Wow, wow. One country doing early education exceptionally well.
Estonia. The pizza scores for the last couple of years have been wonderful for Estonia, and they actually prove that early education is not about pressure, but it's more about curiosity building, digital confidence, and strong
Wow,
foundation.
wow, wow. Little Einsteins in one word.
Nurturing, because we nurture not just the children, but also our franchisee partners into successful entrepreneurs.
Wow, wow, wow. No, I think very, very well put. I think there are a lot of pillars to what you're building, and of course, child being at the center of it, the kind of training you're providing your teachers, the kind of communication you're establishing with all your parents, and also the support you're providing your partners. I think all of this kind of stands strong, and what stands out from this conversation, preschool is not just about classrooms, toys, colorful walls. It's about building trust through systems, pedagogy, and consistency. Maybe the real question is not which preschool looks the best, but which system consistently helps children grow, learn, and thrive. And perhaps that's what the next decade in education will belong to brand that combines learning outcomes with operational excellence at scale. And of course, Little Einstein is doing that. Thanks, Kopal, for sharing these wonderful insights with us. And I'm sure all the listeners of our podcast and this episode today of the Success Playbook would kind of come out inspired, would learn a lot from this episode, and anyone wanting to, of course, get into early education would want to kind of partner with you and become your partner as well. Thanks for sharing the insights, Kopal. It was wonderful having this conversation with you today.
Thank you so much, Jatin. It was a pleasure.